All right, guys. Well, thank you as always for taking time to be here and listen to me. So always look forward to seeing you guys on Monday, and really proud of our team and how we've continued to learn and grow each week. Still got a long way to go, but excited to continue to be on that journey with them. One thing of note, from last Saturday's game that I don't think I talked a ton about after the game was just how fast our team started. That was a huge point of emphasis for me and our staff was we have to start this game fast. We can't ease into this. We knew the opponent we were playing. We knew they were going to be well coached and ready to go. We got to start fast. And when you come out, cover the kickoff the way we needed to, 3 and out on defense, first play on offense, touchdown. I mean, I don't know if you can start much faster than that. So we got to build on that. The teams we play week in and week out, especially in our conference, you don't have the luxury to ease into a game and kind of feel it out and wait for something to happen for you to create momentum. You have to make sure that you start a game fast, and that starts from your execution and making sure our guys are prepared to go cut it loose. So proud of how our team started fast on Saturday's game. And proud of a lot of different things we did. Like I said, I want to give another shout out to Maddox Madsen. I think that was his best game all season. Continues to learn and grow from some of the things that we needed him to improve on, and he did. And he played really well on Saturday. Was able to get the ball to a lot of receivers. A lot of our receivers were able to make a lot of big plays, which is huge for them. Our O-line continues to keep our quarterbacks off the ground, which is huge. We got to continue to build the depth in our O-line. But 2 guys to give a shout out to. Cage Casey, Ben Dooley, playing at a high level on our O-line. I mean, they continue to anchor. We've got a lot of really good guys rotating through and playing. I mean, be able to get the brothers on the field together, Jason and Jake Steele, was really cool to do. I know me and my brother Ethan would have loved to play O-line together. That's just not how God built us. But hopefully, little by little, Johnny and Mike, know him a little bit better. So we'll see if we can continue to get that thing roll. But proud of how our guys continue to grow. Very explosive on offense. That's the awesome thing on Monday. It's still going to be, what do we learn? Where are we growing to? And Hawaii is our biggest game of the season because the next game. And we know the challenge at hand. Defensively, there were some good things we did on defense. Gave up way too many yards, way too many explosive plays, and they are fixable. Now it is our job as coaches. We get paid to be problem solvers. We got to fix the problems, and it's all going to come down to a lack of technique and a lack of tackling. I mean, that's all over the film. Have to improve those things on defense and not give up 500 yards of offense like we did on Saturday. Can't happen. We have to be better. We have the guys to do it. Now we got to work our tail off to get it fixed. Especially on the flip side, we're going to play a University of Hawaii team who can throw the ball all around the field, have wide receivers that are matchup issues, have one of the best quarterbacks in our conference. So I know if I'm University of Hawaii and I'm Coach Chang, I can't wait to play the Broncos. And we got to be ready for that challenge, and we will be. And on special teams, man, being able to have that explosive return, Dylan Riley, we've had our struggles with our special teams unit throughout this season, being able to get a kickoff return for a touchdown. We played better, still have some mistakes we got to clean up. Kicking the ball out of bounds can't happen. A couple mistakes in regards to our protection on our punt team, but we are getting better on special teams. Now we got to keep at it. So that's my message always is there's some good things on film. There's some guys that are really continue to step up and really add value to our team and make big plays. Now we got to stay at it. We've learned a lot about our team to this point. Now, how are we going to grow and get these things fixed like we need to? We played 5 games. That is it. There's a lot of hype and outside noise about college football playoff, Heisman, all these things, and none of that's happening now. Right now, we've got a big-time opponent, conference opponent. We got a 6.5-hour flight or whatever it is to go over there. They've been able to knock off a ton of great teams at home, and they got a really good team. I mean, their defense, I think, is top 40 in the country. They're well coached. Coach Thurman was a NFL defensive coordinator. They're flying around. They're going to have a lot of challenging things our offense has to deal with. And obviously, Coach Chang, the play caller, that offense is explosive, and they can throw the ball all over the place. They create a lot of conflict with the defense, and especially pass game has been something that we've struggled in. We got to improve. So the challenge is there. We got to learn and grow from Saturday. Tonight, we're going to learn and grow from the film with our players, and then we're going to flip the switch and be on to Hawaii, and it's our biggest game because the next one.
You have scored in all 5 games first, and I think you've scored 4 of your 5 opening possessions first. How much conversation goes on in the week to do that right off the bat?
Yeah, it's huge, Prater. I mean, you talk about starting fast, getting points on the board, being efficient, and so much of it comes down to Coach Koetter, our offensive staff, the game plan, but it's our players executing. It's not, all right, I'm waiting to work to where I feel like I'm in rhythm. No, you got to start now. That's in our prep from Monday to kickoff, is getting you ready so you can start fast and not wait for something good to happen to where all of a sudden now a big play comes. So I'm proud of our staff. I'm really proud of our players taking that to heart. And a lot of it too, Prater, comes back to practice. Like we put a premium on starting practice fast, from pre-practice, some walkthroughs, some fits. And then when we get to when it's on and we've got done with our stretch and it's happening, it might be Indy, it might be a team period, but it is on. We have no time to waste. Our best is required. And so proud of our guys doing it in practice and showing up in the game.
What kind of challenges does this travel pose for you to Hawaii? I mean, obviously, like you said, 6.5 hour trip, 4 hour time zone difference, kind of a late start as opposed to what you're used to. And then, of course, I mean, I'm not saying the team gets distracted, but the distractions are there.
I mean, that's there. I mean, that's part of this battle. I mean, and I've talked to a lot. We played there over in 2020 during COVID, so a little bit different. Have not played in their new stadium yet, me personally or this team. The flight, the travel, the distractions, you're going to a place with the beach and a lot of stuff going on. Like it's a hard place to play and win. I mean, their record at home is really good for a reason. And guys go there that are, these high flying offenses or great defenses, and they struggled over there in the past. So for me as a coach, I'm always very upfront and intentional about the challenge at hand. This is a huge challenge, and they're well coached. They're playing at a high level. We have to be ready for that. Part of that is in between the lines, but part of that also is all the stuff we're talking about, the distractions, the travel, all the other things that we got to battle as well, which is a part of this opponent. So we got to work out for us.
You let the guys, I mean, even for a 10-minute walk, even go see the beach?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a big deal to me. I mean, even when we get in Thursday, I'm going to have our guys eat with their position group, and they're going to have an hour or two to go walk on the beach and hang out. I tell them, like, big boy hours around here. But these are what I expect when we do this, and the time you're going to be back and how you handle it matters to me. That's the college football experience too. When they go places like this, a lot of our players have never been to Hawaii before. I want them to experience it. It's a phenomenal place, and I'm excited for even Noe. He's going back to see his family, and I'm sure they're going to have tons of people at the game. And even Braxton Feely has a bunch of family from there. I'm sure there's other of our players going to have their families over there. I want them to enjoy that part of it, but we are there on a business trip.
How's it change the preparation this week heading into this game?
See that one more time?
How does it change the preparation for you guys with the time difference and everything else?
Yeah, well, our prep's going to be, we just got to continue to fine tune it week in and week out. So we're not changing, practice time or hours or any of that kind of stuff. We're going to be very intentional when we fly out there, getting our guys acclimated to the time difference, which is a huge deal. We play at 5 o'clock. The game's kicked off at 5 o'clock. That's 9 o'clock here. We've kicked off at 8 o'clock here, so it's not a huge difference in regards to when kickoff is. But how we handle, the mornings and our practice, because it is a difference, we're going to be intentional, especially when we get over there to handle some of those things. But how we prep, how we practice performance is game reality. We're going to put a paramount on that, as we always will, and we need to grow.
They have some history with Hawaii just over the years, whether it be games, whether a lot of good players you've had come from over there, and with, going to the Pac-12 and stuff, it's maybe the last time you play them for a while or go over there and play there. Just what are your thoughts on what that state has meant for this program and whether it be players, games, whatever? Yeah,
BJ, great question. I mean, we've had a bunch of our great players from Hawaii, and they fit here. They've been huge parts of our culture, the Kanihos. I mean, I can go down the list, and it's been a huge recruiting hotbed for us. We got a couple young men we're recruiting there right now. And just being able to go over there and play, like even in 2020, we played over there in COVID, and they were in the old Aloha Stadium. No one was in the stands. I mean, we've been over there playing for years, probably for decades. And so with us moving conferences here in the future, we're going to play them less. I don't know if that means we'll never play them again, but there's a lot of history between us. I mean, we've had a lot of big time battles with them. Back in even 2019 when Coach Rolovich was there, I mean, we played them on the blue twice, and they were rolling. And I know, Coach Chang's back to that run and shoot offense of old, and they're crushing it. I mean, they create matchup issues. And so there's a lot of history between us and Hawaii, a lot of respect for them and what they do, their staff. I mean, I think Coach Chang's done a phenomenal job getting the staff in there. I mean, these on all three phases, these guys play hard and they play very, very sound. Like, that's always what I look at when I'm watching opponents scout. Like, yeah, you can tell their players have bought into what they want to do in all three phases, and they're extremely sound. Like, you don't see uncovered receivers or guys not in their gap or offensively wrong routes. Like, they're on point, and that creates challenges. And especially they're going to be at home, they're going to have a crowd. There's a lot of things that we have to combat in this travel trip, but I'm excited for our players to experience it. This is the beautiful part about college football, is being able to do this as a family, have these experiences in the hotel, our guys being able to see the beach. These are the moments that our young men are going to remember years from now when football is over for them, and the connections they have with their teammates on these travel trips means a ton to them, and it means a lot to me.
What do you see in Schrager, the quarterback, with Ashlock, the receiver? It looks like the numbers just pop for those guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Petrus and Royals from Utah State. So what do you see in them? Maybe how do they compare with what the two guys from Utah State have?
Yeah, that's one of the most dynamic combinations especially in our conference. And I know even going into this season, doing some preseason opponent scout on our schedule and especially teams we hadn't played in a couple of years, Hawaii being one of them. I got a ton of respect for what they do offensively, but especially the weapons they got. I mean, number 5, Ashlock, matchup nightmare. I mean, the guy can run, and from everything I like to do research on the players we're playing. Seems like a phenomenal young man, one of their leaders. And that quarterback, from Texas, I mean, he can put it everywhere. Number 13 can make all the throws. He's nimble on his feet, and he can take off too. They'll do some design tailback draws, but also he can create movement in the pocket. And they're just so sound. I mean, obviously, Coach Chang's been coaching in this offense for a long time, played in something very similar. I mean, they just – whatever defense you're in, they're going to have answers to have open receivers. They do a phenomenal job with that and being able to have and it's not just number 5. I mean, I think this is one of the better receiving cores we'll see. I mean, number 5 is a matchup. They got a bunch of different wideouts that can make people miss and create leverage issues for a defense. And number 13 can make all the throws. Like I said, going into this season, I knew he was going to be one of the top two quarterbacks in our conference without question. And by numbers, he is.
What's going on with the pass defense? What are you seeing from these previous games going into? It sounds like a bad matchup for you guys this weekend.
Yeah, it comes down to leverage and techniques, Prater. I mean, there is a time on film, like I said, a perfect example for me, without getting into it. Coach Chin calls a post defense. Nobody's in the post. So for me, we're looking at it from all phases. Is it we're not getting the signals? Is the lack of techniques? And a lot of what shows up on film right now is we are not executing our technique. These are day one techniques. When you come to play Boise State football, we teach you these techniques. There's been a drop-off. And that's on me as the head coach. It's on our defensive coaches to get it fixed. We have young men that want to improve. That's not a battle. It's not a, hey, guys, we need you to work harder. No, our guys train. They don't run from hard work. Now, we have to make sure we fine-tune these details. If in this call, you're outside leverage. You have to be outside leverage, non-negotiable. And we weren't that way on Saturday. There was too much. There was some good stuff on defense. Obviously, when you give up 500 yards of offense, that's not going to be talked about. That's the reality when on defense. But we got to be more consistent with our techniques, and we have to tackle better. If we played with better techniques, we tackle better, that's a whole different situation.
Have you seen Maddox kind of almost at the midway point in his first full season as a starter? Have you seen him kind of adjust and grow to, living and working in that role? And if you look at it right now, he is the number 1 QB efficiency rating in the Mountain West Conference.
Everything Maddox gets right now is earned and deserved because of how he practices and how he preps. And right now I'm seeing a young man continually get in rhythm, not only in how he himself plays the position, Jay, but how he's leading his teammates. It was great to see that last week, him grabbing more guys, him being able to be more of a vocal leader. He's a calm, cool, collected competitor, ice in his veins, young man, but him being able to grab a couple more guys and say, hey, that's what we're looking for, man. This is going to be really good. And even in game, seeing him do a lot more. So he's coming into his own. And that's what happens when the more reps you get, when you execute and you're successful, and especially off of not playing a very consistent game against Washington State, him being able to flip the switch, have a great week of practice and play the way he did on Saturday, cannot be more proud of. And I also know he's only going to continue to get better because of how he works.
Those intangibles, whether he's grabbing guys, leadership, things like that. For you, how important is that to see that out of your QB?
It's huge. It's a huge deal. I mean, that position has to do those things. It's not maybe that's not his personality. I get that. But that's something you have to grow in. No different at other positions. You got to grow in certain fundamentals. Like that's a fundamental you have to have that position because regardless if you're on offense, defense, or special teams, the quarterback has to be one of your leaders. And as a leader, you're taking your team or players around you in the right direction or in the wrong direction. And he has stepped up in that. First off, you got to lead by example, which he already does. And all our quarterbacks do that. First here, last to leave, how they prep. I mean, that's a non-negotiable with that position, but having guys step up and be those leaders. And yes, everyone's a different personality. Whoever God made our young man, I want them to thrive in that and be the best version of themselves. But Maddox he's stepping in his own in regards to how he leads, and he's only going to continue to get better. And so just very proud of Maddox.
Bolt and Prince finally getting going a little bit. What can that do now that they get a taste and get back involved a little bit to kind of get their confidence going here moving forward?
Yeah, BJ, great question. It's a huge deal. I mean, especially at the wide receiver position, you get some big catches, you get some touchdowns, you start getting more motivation, more confidence. And so I know, knowing those guys, the competitors they are, they're going to continue to ramp it up in practice. But for both those guys, they had a great week of practice last week. Not perfect. No one on our team practiced perfect last week. That's why we still have a lot to clean up. But they did a much better job in practice, and they did a much better job in the game. And so now, Bolt getting 2 touchdowns, Prince having a couple big-time catches, Chase Penner having a couple big catches. Cam Camper is consistently a matchup issue for defenses. It's going to continue to fuel that fire for those guys to even be better because we need them to be.
Latrell, you mentioned Saturday how this time last week he was doubtful. Maddox is telling us, he went from not being able to raise his hand above his head to playing. Just what did it take to get him in playing position? Yeah,
Latrell Cable's guys, 100%. Like this time last week, it's very questionable to doubtful for the game. And who Latrell is and why you can't help but love that young man is he's like, I'll be ready. Even if the trainers and everyone's saying, I don't know, lived in the training room, worked at it, strengthened it. And by the time we got to Thursday, Friday, our trainer's like, shoot, like Latrell's gonna be ready to play. That's who he is. He's a young man that has been counted out in his life. He's been through injuries. He's had football taken from him. And for him to work his tail off to be healthy to play on Saturday, even in a limited role because of the lack of practice, is a testament to Latrell Caples. And I have to also hit the fact that Latrell Caples is one of the biggest leaders on our entire team. Even when he was hurt and couldn't do a lot of the actual reps, I mean, this young man and how he's around his teammates, how he leads, how he's in the training room leading, making sure he's healthy and ready to roll. I am so proud of Latrell Caples and excited for him to continue to grow.
We're 17 minutes into this press conference, and I don't think we've brought up Ashton Jeanty's name yet.
It's weird.
It is weird. And is he so damn good that we started taking him for granted?
I know I don't. Maybe you do, Prater, but I don't. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, guys, Ashton Jeanty's an elite human being, and he's an elite football player. Best football player in the country. I make no bones about it. And he's one of the best leaders I've ever been around. He's a generational talent on and off the football field, and he preps and trains like it. So we can sit here and for my whole 30 minutes talk about Ashton, but Ashton would also want us talking about the rest of his teammates. That's why he is who he is, because whenever I talk to Ashton, it is not about him. It is about how can I help the team? How can I help the team grow? How can I help more in special teams? How can I help our team? Because that's what matters to him. And then he goes out and performs what he does, helps the team. Both those are aligned. And he's just that young man. So like I said, we can sit around and talk about him more and more because he's earned and deserved it. But I love being able to shout out some of our guys that are doing some really good things because it is all about the team. And that's why this is the greatest team sport on the planet. We have the best football player in the country. But we have a really good team that needs to continue to grow and develop. And I love the other day I saw Kirby Smart had a quote that I loved. I think he said in the SEC, so I'd just say in college football in general, humility is right around the corner, something like that. Humility is coming for you next week. And it's so true. I mean, you look at college football. That's what you love about college football. I mean, you look at, ranked teams losing to unranked teams or all these different, parity. And that's the beautiful thing about college football. It's all about the next week. And if the next week isn't your biggest game and you don't prep for it, you don't prepare like it, you'll get beat by anybody you play. And so it is the greatest team sport on the planet. So coming back to Ashton, I mean, Ashton Jeanty is an elite human on and off this football field. But I love being able to talk about the rest of this team because we are the Boise State Broncos, and I'm proud of our team, and I'm proud of where we're going.
To get specific, but I mean, is Chris Marshall injured, or why is he not?
Yeah, he had an ankle. So he rolled his ankle really bad against Oregon, and it's taken longer than assumed to get him back. Hopefully, he's going to be healthy this week. BJ, I have not gotten that official word yet. He was able to do some routes on air in a little bit last week, but hopefully, we get him back. We need him.
You mentioned being a developmental program, and I know we talked about getting guys down the depth chart into games. When did you decide that you wanted to make that a point of emphasis and where did, I don't know if you got advice on that or where that came from, because it definitely seems like you're getting the guys a little bit earlier than maybe probably the past decade or so, would have gotten into those types of games.
Yeah, Jay, I mean, on offense, just as a zone, we played 25 guys on offense on Saturday. It's a huge deal to me for the future of this program because I'm a firm believer the only way to get better at playing this game is to play it, and especially in game. So when to do that, when to pull starters and put in, your second string or guys that aren't the starters, that's a fine line every single week. And it's not just my decision. I use, Coach Koetter, the position coach, go into the game with some understandings of kind of the team we're playing. So try and be prepared in every situation, but there's constant conversations in regards to that with Jay on offense, on defense, on special teams, because we got to get our guys out there to play, especially guys that in practice, you're kind of seeing them, Jay, do a good job, right? Man, this guy's growing. Let's go see how he does when we put him in the game, because that's the only way he's going to grow and develop, and that's the only way me as a coach can give that young man truth. Because if a guy had never been in the game, they're going to be like, Coach, give me a shot. Give me a shot. And I'll tell him your first shot's in practice. If the young man does a good job in practice, it's my job to give him an opportunity to do it in a game. Now, when to do that, the time to do that, that is obviously game dependent where we're at in the game. But I love being able to get guys in and play because that's how they develop. And that's how a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, some of these guys, they're going to be the guys that we're all sitting here talking about because they got those game reps.
Even with Dylan getting, 6 carries against Portland State, do you think that helped him step on the field against Utah State and execute and what? You really had one significant big opportunity to get it.
Absolutely it does. Because now going forward, he's got more and more game reps. And every time he's in that meeting room with Coach J-Mo learning, all the fundamentals and techniques and the schemes to play running back here, he's got even a more motivation in the back of his head. He's like, I'm going to get in the game. I'm going to get in the game. Like, I got to make sure I'm on point just like a starter is. And that's at all positions. If you feel like I'm never going to get in the game, you would love for those young men to still compete and study the way they should. It's hard. When you think there's even a glimmer of light that, shoot, my number might be called, that's going to motivate them to even prep more and help the whole team gel together, which is a huge deal.
Do you make those decisions on when to put guys in on gut instinct, or is it more analytical?
I think both. I mean, there's a feel of a game, but a lot of it is more analytical going into this. And like I said, I didn't go into playing Utah State saying that Ashton Jeanty, we're going to pull him start in the third quarter. That's just how the game was going. And we wanted to get guys more reps on our offense, on defense, if the game was in a situation where we felt comfortable. That changes, and it's a fine line. Like I said, there was even a time in the game where we had to put some guys back in because we gave up some explosive plays on defense that we can't happen. So it's a fine line. I by no means got to figure it out, but making those decisions is in game. But I do go in knowing specifically the guys that have done a good job in practice that we need to get out there. Hey, these guys, we need to make sure that we got to get them reps. Sometimes it's in a situation where you're winning and you can put them in. Sometimes it might be tied and we know, hey, this guy earns it. We got to rotate him in. We got to have him go out there and cut his teeth. So it's a fine line. It's game by game. It's situation by situation. It's player by player. And that's a huge part of my job.
Probably a tough question, but it's safe to assume Dylan Riley's not redshirting. You're going to go with him.
Yeah, he's going to play. Yep, he's playing, and like I said, something barring somehow, but we're playing. And that's my message, BJ, to really all our freshmen, and especially with the new rule with you can play in 4 games. You can also play in a championship game and bowl games or whatever you play after and still redshirt. And I just think in college football, like I've noticed here, guys that play as a true freshman, that could be special teams. It could be a little bit of O&D and play and travel and understand all that feels. When they're a sophomore, they've got so much more in the tank and ready and way more prepared than if they just redshirted. Sometimes, I mean, we're going to have a good amount of guys redshirt this year because it could be development, could be where the position group is at. And that doesn't mean they're not going to be big-time players for our team. But guys like Dylan Riley, and there's a couple others that are playing on special teams, traveling to every game, maybe going to get in late in the game on O&D, they will be so much better in spring ball 2025. And they'll be even bigger part of our team come fall camp next year, which matters. We're a developmental program. So I keep saying that we need our freshmen to develop. We're not going to go to the portal in junior college and fix an issue. We got to make sure our freshmen, sophomores are those guys because those are our best players.
On kickoff, you guys rotate quite a few bodies back there, especially these last few games. Is that just to give a guy an opportunity or see who hits this and maybe it sticks, or what is the thought there?
Yeah, it's first off finding our best 11 on our kickoff unit. We've seen it go sideways in the past, and so we want to find who are our best 10 cover guys and who's our best kicker. Who can hopefully kick it out of the end zone and get a touchback, and or who can start to do some different, junk kicks, for lack of better words, to help throw a team off. We want to be on the cutting edge schematically. And so a lot of it in game is adjustments and seeing who's doing it well, Jay, who's not. Do we got to make changes, not only with our specialists, but also even with some cover guys? Because now the beauty with iPads, you're not waiting till Sunday to be like, oh, that's what was happening. Right away. This guy missed his block. This guy got blocked. This guy wasn't where he's supposed to be. Like, the information and intel comes quicker than it ever has. And now it's our job as coaches to make in-game adjustments, either A, personnel, or B, schematically, because that's what's happening against us.
That's my next point. You go back to that fourth down stop even by Marco the week before, and they're mentioning as the iPad, they were able to make that adjustment on. How confident are you guys in what you're doing right now to use that as best you possibly can in game?
Yeah, I feel confident, Jay. I think just like anything, we're trying to make sure we're using it the best way. Also, me as a coach, I am a firm believer, do not overcoach our players on game day. Like, it is our job to coach them to the highest level Monday to kickoff. But when we roll out on that field, I want a group of guys attacking success. Like, let them cut it loose. Does not mean don't make adjustments. Does not mean that we don't coach them at all. But I think with the iPads, you could easily have your own position meeting where you're trying to clean things up, and then you go on the field and you can see some guys play slow from that. And that's a fine line for us to make sure, yes, we need to make adjustments. We can't be sitting ducks. We gotta learn from plays that we've had prior in a game and be better the next series in any phase. But I am not going to let our players get overcoached. Like, we need to correct things, but I want them taking the field, not fearing failure, attacking success. So I think that fine line is something we're always looking into.
Regarding Nohi, 2020, not a lot of fans. I don't know if you had any fans in the stands there in Hawaii. What's this mean to him to get a chance to play in front of family and friends?
Yeah, it's a huge deal for Noe. It's a huge deal for our entire team because this is the biggest game of our season to date. But for Noe especially, I mean, a young man that's a senior, we ask a ton of him on the special teams, defense. He's played a bunch of positions for us, from corner to nickel to field safety to boundary safety. And he does it with a smile on his face, and he works his tail off to help his family. So I am so proud of Noe. I mean, he is such a great teammate, and he gives us so much versatility on defense and what he does on special teams. So him being able to go back to Hawaii, play in front of I don't know how many tickets and who's going to be there for. I know it's going to be a lot. And his mom and dad, Jared and Misty, are phenomenal people. The first time that I met the Canijos was Kala's official visit back in January 2017. And I'll never forget and no, he wasn't on that trip, but meeting Kala, meeting Jarrett, meeting Misty. And I was, a graduate assistant just trying to figure out why it's so cold in Boise, Idaho. And here's this young man from Hawaii and meeting his parents and getting to know them now over these 8 years. I mean, he comes from a phenomenal family, and know he's just going to be a champion in life. So him being able to go back to Hawaii, play in front of his fans, his family, I'm excited for him.
I think unique is maybe your connection with a guy like Noe, and a lot of people don't see he's a dad. A lot of people don't see him say goodbye to his kid for a little while, things like that. So just the type of dynamic is that as you're a player come from.
Yeah, I mean, I got so much respect for Noe, and his life is different than every one of everyone's life is different, but his life, especially as a father, is very different than a lot of our other football players. But it's hard. I mean, the stuff that he goes through to get his degree here to play football when his kids are in Hawaii and he only sees them on breaks or when they're able to come out to games, that's hard. I mean, I tell him, I can't imagine, only seeing my girls for those small amount of time, but it's a sacrifice he's willing to make because he knows he's betting on the long term. He's getting his degree. He's working his tail off to be a part of this football team and help us. And he knows long term that he's going to be able to take care of his family the right way. And it's also a testament to his parents. Like I said, Jared and Misty are 10 out of 10 people, have raised him, call their kids the right way. And so the respect I have for Noe because of what he has to deal with outside of the strenuous and anxiety that comes with being a student athlete, he's also a father. And that's a lot on his plate, and he's doing a great job with it. I know it's not easy. And so I just got a ton of respect for him. I know his teammates do too, the sacrifice that he has, being here every day, being early, all the stuff that we demand of him, and his kids aren't around. So him being able to see his family this weekend, see his kids, he deserves it.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Thanks, Coach.
BJ, see you in a couple days, brother.
How nice was it? We talked about Prince and some of those guys, receivers, Prince and Bolton in particular, getting them involved.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, everybody wants to touch the ball. It's good when it can happen. Can't always happen that way.
You go into games thinking that, okay, Bolt needs to get more involved, Prince needs to get more involved, and you come up kind of with a scheme, or does that just kind of happen organically in the game?
Sometimes we do. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we do. Sometimes it's luck.
Was this a case of trying to get Bolt and Strawn both more involved, or?
Somewhat. Not. I mean, first we're trying to win the damn game. Is what we're trying to do.
From everything we've heard, a Herculean effort by Luttrell to get on the field last week. Just how impressed were you with the work he put in to make that happen?
Well, we don't see all the work when those guys are coming back from injury. They're doing most of that work, with the training staff, and so. At the first of the week, though, they were counting him out, and we didn't have him involved in the game plan, and that just shows, how much he wants to be in there because they didn't think he had a chance to make it, and he did, and he played well.
Is the ability to not get sacked a developed skill that a quarterback learns and works on and just?
They need to, yes, they need to learn it because no, not everybody does not just come by that naturally for sure. And I think that's one of the things Maddox is doing a great job of. I mean, I don't know if Spencer gave you, but our first group has 0 sacks on the year as far as giving up. Mad Dog got sacked one time in one of those early games, and that was just good coverage. I mean, they just covered us. We didn't have a good enough scheme on, and Mad Dog ran it for a -1, and we got a sack. The other 3 sacks are all with either backup O-line or backup quarterback in there. So, I think that's one of the things we've done the best job of is not turning it over and not having sacks. Because when you're behind the chains, it's just tough. It's tough. When we're ahead of the chains, we're pretty good.
They're juggling centers. You just don't hear that very often. It's like one position, and you got Holmes and Steele. And the last 2 or 3 games you're juggling, it seems like Steele's maybe closed that gap. How difficult is that, and how are they executing it?
It has not been difficult because of the good job those 2 guys have done. They've handled it fantastic. I'll go back and say again, the guys that they're replacing, the guy that they're replacing in Mason is a all-conference type player. They've stepped into big shoes. They've complemented each other well. They've worked together on it. They have some different strengths and weaknesses, and it's been a much bigger deal outside the building than it has been inside the building.
From the week 1 of fall camp to right now, what's like your most noticeable thing about the growth of Maddox Matson settling into his first full season as a starter? I mean, like I said, if you look at the numbers right now, he is now the number 1, has the number 1 QB efficiency rating in the Mountain West Conference. So from that week 1 to right now, what's the biggest growth or most noticeable growth been?
That's a hard one. I think when the quarterback at Boise State, expectations are high from outside as well as from inside. And living up to those expectations is not always easy. I think it's taken some time to get everybody on the same page as far as, receiver wise. We're working with a lot of different guys. We've had 8 guys playing roles in there. There was a couple really good examples in the game of the first touchdown. I mean, we turned the defensive end loose, the one he threw to Camper. And so there was I made a cut up of 4 plays where Mad Dog got to the backside of a read and the receiver was exactly where he was supposed to be, exactly when he was supposed to be there. That's not easy. I mean, we've struggled with that, and our passing game has not been where it needed to be, and it was a lot closer last week. So part of it's just getting everybody on the same page.
You mentioned last week that maybe, I think of like a pitcher, if you start trying to aim the ball, you're going to be in trouble, right? And so I think you kind of mentioned something kind of like that with him against, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
That's a mental thing. So how do you get that out or flush that so you don't do that? It's kind of easier said than done.
Your coach yells at you a lot and says some swear words to you. Most of these players are harder on themselves than any coach is going to be. And, Mad Dog's a perfectionist, like a lot of our guys. He's not the only one. And, he's the son of a coach. So I'm sure he was hearing it from his dad. He was definitely hearing it from me. And just the pressure he put on himself to get back. I mean, Maddox played in this game like I see him quite often. It hasn't showed up, as clear as maybe everybody would like it until this last week. But that's the Mad Dog that I see almost every day.
Austin Bolt said nobody prepares like Madsen. How smart is this kid? I mean, you've been around like Ryan Fitzpatrick levels.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. Mad Dog can comprehend, and he remembers stuff. He's right up there. I mean, he's pretty good at it. I mean, I think when you're lacking in some areas of he's not the most mobile guy, he's not the tallest guy, you have to make up for it in other ways, and he's been able to do that throughout his career in multiple sports. So he's pretty sharp.
What was that when that was like when he had to come out for the one play to be evaluated or whatever, and they should have to throw Malachi in there like 3rd and 7 or whatever it was?
It was actually it's lucky, when you're winning like we ended up winning and you're looking back on it, but that's a good thing to happen for us. I mean, I tell Malachi every week, you're one play away from going in, and it just happened to be a 3rd down. And, when any backup goes in there, we were just talking about the backup centers, all of a sudden you're in and you're not the backup anymore. Now you're playing. So, you got to be ready to go. So it's a good lesson for everyone, and a good learning experience for Malachi. And Malachi continues to improve. He showed some really good plays last Saturday, and then a couple we'd like to have back.
I'm sure he was telling us about some of the conversations you guys have when you have to make the decisions of when to, rest starters, when to get guys more reps. For you, what kind of factors do you consider about when to? I mean, obviously not mentioning that quarterback because that was an injury, but other situations.
Yeah, well, once we, when we're fortunate enough, and we've been a couple of times to get the game in hand, my first thought goes to what players do we have to keep healthy for the long run? And, certain players are invaluable at their position, just based on our depth or based on how talented they are. I mean, we've got a couple guys that we can't afford to lose. So, once the game is in hand and, whatever that number is, but I'll keep that secret. But
is there a specific magic number that you?
Sort of. Yeah, sort of.
You're the only team in college football averaging 50 points a game, and I know it's kind of a milestone number that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme.
Yeah.
What is the ceiling for this offense?
Yeah, Ashton Jeanty's a generational player. So, we're not planning those one-play drives. I mean, we've had like 5 or 6 one-play, 60-plus drives. I mean, we're expecting those plays to gain 4 yards. And then we'd be happy with that. You're ahead of the chains. So it was, he scores on that first play. It's almost anticlimactic. I'm finally, we were on defense first. We go through the kicking plays. Finally, it's time for me to do my job. And he takes the counter play and runs it 70 yards for a touchdown. Have some more popcorn and wait for the next series.
What has coaching Ashton Jeanty taught you?
Well, I've been blessed to be around a lot of fantastic players, and he's just ahead of his time. I mean, this guy's he's playing at a superior, elite level, and he's a junior in college, or and I think is he a true junior? Is he a 3rd-year junior? I mean, so he's just way ahead of the curve.
With Ash, I mean, I know there are times where he certainly gets space and things get blocked up like a Georgia Southern, but how often does the opponent do? I mean, they fit a run right, and he still finds a way to go 7.
Oh yeah, there's plenty. I mean, the Washington State game, there was a lot of them in that Washington State game. We blocked a lot better in this last game, and we're going to have to block better in this game because Hawaii is excellent at stopping the run. That's one of their best things. So, but he does it way more than most. I mean, that's what makes him special. And there's all the videos and stuff out there of 5, 6, 7 guys having a shot at him. I mean, yeah, he's doing a lot on his own.
Nice was it to get Breezy going?
Really good to see Breezy. He got his first couple explosives of the year, got his first touchdown of the year. Breezy's a different style of back. He's a little bit more of a straight line runner, but he's also got exceptional speed. So when he hits it, he can go. I mean, with him and Dylan, both those guys have breakaway speed, and obviously Dylan showed it on the kickoff.
Anything else?
Your thoughts on Hawaii?
Yeah, they're good. They're physical. They're well coached. They run hard to the ball. They have good depth. They have playmakers at every level, at every position. I mean, good set of corners. One really good safety. Those linebackers are tough. They're front. They rotate a bunch of guys in there. They can rush the passer. They've been impressive so far.
You talk a lot about like some of those, some of the stats that are significant at, big point goals and stuff like that a couple weeks ago. But when it comes to executing in the red zone, what is the key down there?
I got to talk to Patrick about that because does a kneel down have to count as a strike against the red zone? That's going to end up. That hurts, man. That hurts. We can't catch Navy. We can't catch Navy if we're counting kneel downs. There's got to be a way around that rule. But we've been so fortunate. One year when I was in the NFL, the Titans led the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage. And a good friend of mine was a receiver coach. I go, what was you guys' secret to being so good and so productive in the red zone? And he goes, well, we ran the shit out of the ball and we got lucky in the passing game. So, yeah, I guess that's what we're doing right now.
Anything else?
Should have gone down to 21, I guess.
Thanks, Coach.
Two games in a row now, you guys have given up over 300 yards passing. What do you guys need to do to kind of fix those woes?
Yeah, I think if you look back at the game from Saturday, I just cut them out. There's about 9 plays where you take those 9 away. You can't take them back. Get those fixed, and it's no magical answer. There's some technique issues we got to get fixed. There's some tackling issues we got to get fixed, and then we just can't have a lack of urgency once we start getting up on an opponent. We've got to keep that sense of urgency going, sense of urgency to get aligned, communicate, execute our techniques, and play football.
How tough was Jalen Royals to stop?
He's a good football player. There's no doubt about it. Fast, physical. He's a thick kid. He's hard to tackle. But once again, this ain't about who we're playing. This is about us getting us fixed first and foremost, and the rest will take care of itself.
Erik, when tackling becomes an issue, what do you notice Monday through Friday, and how do you fix it Monday through Friday?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that, and it's getting to the point of the season where you can't. We've been hitting some live tackles in practice, but you can't tackle a ton just because of the wear and tear on bodies. So we spent some time yesterday talking about better ways to execute a simulated tackle and intentional finish in the team periods. We're going to try out a couple new things this week, see if it works. But I know this, when our team targets high, it's not successful. When we target low, it is very successful. So I think the overlying point of emphasis for this week is how do we get them to target low when we're not actually executing a full tackle.
the one interception through 5 games. I mean, for teams that are passing the ball as much as some of these teams are too. How rare is that, and how much? Obvious answer to how much would that help the passing defense numbers here if you guys can start getting some turnovers?
Yeah, obviously that'll help. And we've had a few missed ops, but I think the other part of that is the other teams are doing a pretty good job of having a plan to get the ball out quick. Obviously, we've been successful getting some pressure on quarterbacks, so they've been wanting to get the ball out quick. And, the quick throws, not where you get a ton of picks. Now, you can get them, certainly. That's not where you get a ton of them. It's more when those routes develop downfield. You can get some tips. You can get some overthrows. But we have had some missed ops out there, and those are the ones we got to take away.
Last week, but when you're getting as much pressure as you are on the quarterback, is there a little give and take there where I know you never want to give a big play, but are you more susceptible maybe to more one-on-one or more bigger plays in the passing game when you're getting more pressure and sacks as you are? Or?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, there is a give and take. I mean, the ball's got to come out fast. But I don't think the plays that got us the past week for the explosive plays were directly related to pressure issues. Now, if you're bringing 6 and you're putting some guys in a complete one-on-one and those kind of things, like that's obviously an issue if you get picked up in protection. I just don't think that those were the things that hit us this past week. So it's on me to get those techniques cleaned up. It's on me to get those communication pieces cleaned up, and we will work very hard to get those cleaned up here starting today.
Back there, so you guys have been a pretty big role this season. He plays more than pretty much anybody on your defense, and he's on some really nice moments. And sometimes you forget he turned 19 like 2 weeks ago, and he's only second year of college.
Yeah, Ty, he's doing a great job. He's a leader for us as a young guy on defense. The thing about Ty is you can live with any mistakes that get made out there, but you can really live with his because he plays so hard. He'll cover him up with some effort. There's some things that obviously out there we got to get corrected with him all the time, partly being a young guy, some inexperience, and just some things that he's never seen before as the live bullets start flying. But, I mean, he plays so hard and he plays so aggressive. He's going to get things fixed, with effort.
He getting a chance to play in front of family and friends. What do you think this moment means for him?
Yeah, I think it's going to be huge for him. Braxton Philly's got a lot of family in Hawaii, so those guys going back home probably going to be big for them, but also big for their families that don't get over here to see them a lot. So I think just those guys going back to the island, obviously helping us with recruiting a little bit, getting some local guys back there, getting their families to the game. But I think it's going to be really cool, especially for Nohe to have his kids get to see him play in Hawaii and those kind of things.
You've only been here a couple of years. I think Boise State's had a history of a lot of great players from Hawaii that have come here and made impacts. Now, I don't know if Friday night you guys get to go out and see some games or what, but what is it about that island and that state that it's got a lot of history here?
Yeah, I think just those guys on the island. It's when you're on the West Coast, you almost treat that, no matter where you're at, you almost treat that like an in-state recruiting area because there is a lot of guys that want to get to the mainland for a little bit. Certainly a lot of guys that want to stay home and play at UH, but also a lot of guys that have lived there their whole life that want to see a different part of the world for a few years or a few seasons. So I think that, you go over there, it's a very small in mileage, but there's a lot of people and a lot of really good football players on Oahu. So I think it's a very fertile recruiting ground. And the great thing about it, I've recruited it a long time, is you don't have to spend an eternity there because you can get around pretty quickly. So, you can to do one state in 4 days or a week is pretty unheard of. But I think that's one state, if you're just on the island of Oahu, that you can get that done.
Without Sheldon, you guys get a little thin there on the inside, it kind of seems like. How do you guys kind of manage that? Was it nice to get Michael in there, once you guys got up a little bit yesterday? Yeah,
it was nice. It was nice to get a bunch of guys in when we got up. And obviously, Michael Madry, he's coming along like we want him to. So he's going to get some more reps until Sheldon gets ready to go. But he did a good job when he got in the football game. Obviously, Mike Callahan's played a lot of football. So, without Sheldon, it's not exactly where you want to be, but we're going to be good. Next guy's got to get ready to roll. And then I think that was a good opportunity to get a lot of young guys some reps there in the second half on Saturday.
How much of that, test those guys? I mean, I know Brax played a lot here, and Herb and the guy, obviously Michael, but how much does it kind of more, test those guys and stuff? They're staying on the field a little bit longer at times.
Yeah, I think they're ready for that because of the way they train. I also think that I didn't say it, they've been telling the young guys since the beginning of camp, we're going to need one of you. Like something's going to happen. You don't often go through a season and not get a D tackle a little banged up. 1 game, 2 games, a half, whatever it is. So they've been doing a good job of getting those guys ready. They coach them extra. When I'm not around, they really focus in on them and practice when they're in. They really help those guys. So I think they're trying to build those guys up because they know like they can't play every rep and they need those younger guys to step up.
You asked a lot about the pass defense, and you're facing a top 40, passing offense on Saturday. What's this challenge like?
Yeah, obviously, run and shoot style offense. They've done it for a long time. They got a lot of coaches that have been in this system for a long time. I think the biggest thing when you're facing a group like this is, they're not going to stretch you as much as Utah State did, but I think this group does a really, really good job of adjusting routes based on coverage. So they can call a lot of their base plays, and it can look much, much different play in and play out depending on if you're playing cover 3 or cover 2 or quarters or man. So that challenges you. It challenges you in the breakdown a little bit just to see, like, what was that play really? Was that the same as the one before, or was that a new play? But I think their quarterback and their receivers are really on the same page with what's going to happen based on I'm getting a cloud, I'm getting a bail corner, whatever the case may be. I think they're really good at that.
Your quarterback's been pretty accurate this year. What do you have to do to throw him off this game?
Yeah, I think the same thing that, with every other quarterback. You're going to have to pressure him a little bit, and you're going to have to confuse him with some coverage. And like I said, the biggest thing we have to do is worry about us. We have to get our base techniques, our base fundamentals back to where they were, back to the beginning. And then, like I said, that's on me. I'm going to get that fixed. And we have to really communicate based on, because the Hawaii will give you some, I wouldn't say the formations, there's not a huge variation in formations, but there is a variation in the splits. So what tools and coverage do we want to play based on what splits are being shown?
With that pressure, you got a sack on the first game against Utah State, but then that was the only sack of the game. How much focus is that going to be to get more pressure consistently throughout?
Yeah, I think we will try to get a little more pressure. Once again, I thought Utah State did a really good job of getting that ball out quick. We did get a lot of hits on the quarterback. We just didn't get a bunch of sacks. So I think they had a really good plan to get that ball out of his hands.
Are any of the numbers skewed just because you're up so many points in games, and whether it's backups coming in or whether it's just other teams just trying to throw it every play because they're down by 30? Do you at all say maybe the numbers aren't as bad, or you're not playing as bad as the numbers look because of that? Or
yeah, probably all the above, but that is what it is, and we got stuff to fix. So that certainly is a part of it, but there's also a part where that has nothing to do with it, and we got to get things fixed. So, I don't. You can make stats any way you want, right? Like you gave up 2 big run plays on the end of the half when you're in Hail Mary defense, and those still go in the run stats. But I can't do anything about it. All I know is we've got to get some things fixed, and we're going to get those fixed. And I'll let the stats, like Patrick tries to give me the stats after every game. I tell him I know I was there, So,
Jeremiah Irby, last week you talked about getting Banks coming up. Is there a point now where maybe Banks is challenging to take Jeremiah Irby's spot as a starter?
Yeah, I think Banks right now, and Jeremiah's played really good football. Banks has to just be more consistent. I thought he played his best game as a Bronco on Saturday. He did some really nice things. I think he was in 49 snaps or something like that. So he's playing better on special teams. He's playing better on defense. And once that consistency grows, then we can talk about, do you take somebody's job or are you just in the rotation right now? But he's playing. His game has elevated quite a bit since week 1. I was really proud of what he did out there on Saturday.
It seemed like he did probably one of his better games. What's like the challenge there is trying to fit into a new program, I guess, like he's had to do, because you can see it from the beginning, but now really start to connect, I guess.
Yeah, I think he had some things working against him. coming into a new program, getting here a little bit later than everybody else, coming off of an injury at his previous school. So there's a lot of things to deal with. It wasn't just, hey, I'm getting to a new system, I got to learn that. There was a plethora of things that he was trying to work through. So I think he's done a really good job getting himself in position to where he's at, and I think he's just going to continue to get better.
Recently, I know it's about every week, but just his level of consistency. Like, where do you think he's at with that? I mean, like, he had nine straight games with a sack at one point in time last year. He's on a nice little run again this year. Like, he did that clutch fine on Saturday. Like, where's his level of consistency at?
Yeah, I think he's super consistent. He plays hard. Rarely is it, what was he doing on that one? Like, he does his job. He executes his techniques. He plays at a really, really high level. He plays at maximum effort, and good things are going to happen for him, and they're going to continue to happen to him at Boise State, and they're going to continue to happen for him in the National Football League when he gets a shot there too. He's just a really consistent player.
Anything else?
Thanks, gents.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Bronco Nation News is presented by RowPaint.com, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, by Lithia Ford, The Blue and Orange Store, Western Collective, by Jackson's, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Bauscher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, by Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and by Timberstone Golf Course.